is another episode of Leveling Up with Brigham Blackham. I have a special guest today. Her name is Debbie Hart. So grateful to have her on. She is a social media expert. She's so great at helping people grow and scale their YouTube channels. She's someone that understands the ins and outs of this side of business. So excited to have her as a guest today. And we're going to dive in a little bit more and talk about patterns of progress and things that she's been able to see in her business and her life and in the businesses of other people, and how they've been able to scale, how they've been able to make some differences in their life. So Debbie, let's get started. Tell us a little bit about your background. Tell us about where you come from, and we want to get to know you. So go ahead.
You know, that is a great way to start, because for me, that's what I work with people first, is knowing your why. Because as a business owner, entrepreneur, there are so many challenges, and everyone I have ever talked to or interviewed on my podcast has those moments where you're right up against the edge, wanting or questioning whether it's time to quit. Yeah. Right? We all are going to hit those, and we need to know how to get around them. And the first step is knowing your why. And that, because that's going to be what drives you. So for me, a decade ago, I was a stay-at-home homeschooling mother of 6. Nice. And my former spouse at the time decided he no longer wanted that lifestyle. And so he had emptied out the bank accounts. And when I received a divorce notice, there was also a letter on there saying you have to leave the premises immediately or you'll be arrested for trespassing. Since I didn't have an income and no way to access an attorney for myself, I didn't know that wasn't legal, you know. So I had 5 minutes for somewhere for me and 6 kids to find somewhere to live. And so after we got our survival needs met, you know, we bounced around in people's basements for a while. We ate people's expired food storage for a while until I could figure it out. But right then in that moment, you know, I had started having kids right after high school. And so I had always had the mindset of, I'll go to college someday. I wanted to study psychology, love personal development. And so someday, when the youngest was in school, I was going to go to school, right? Well, someday never came. And so with 6 kids at home, school was currently out of line, time-wise, money-wise, but also so was getting a job, right? There's no way with no job history and no degree that I could even get a normal job that would cover daycare expenses for 6 kids, let alone our living expenses on top of that. So that is how I learned to be an entrepreneur, out of desperation and necessity. So for me, my why was, I didn't have 6 kids to pay someone else to raise them. So I was going to find a way to take care of them and also still be at the soccer games and the choir concerts, and find a way to build life on my terms so that no one could tell me that I could or could not go to those things. Yeah. And that, so I had enough income, which I couldn't get at that time working for someone else, to go live on, you know, find our own place, get on our own feet, and stop living with other people. So the only way to do that is to build your own income and figure that out. So for me, my why, my burning why is, I must have a way to be in charge of my schedule and my life, because there is no one else to depend on. So that's my burning why. And so I talk to people, you know, when I do these events and these master classes, and I do get into actual systems. And I think we have enough time to cover some of those today, because I always want to just share freely what I've learned, because it's everything I wish I had 10 years ago. And so I'll get into some of those actual tools for people to scale and gain profitability in a minute. But first, knowing your why. And is it okay if I give kind of a quick example of that?
Yeah, absolutely. Share away.
Okay, so I like to ask people, you know, if I put a 6-inch by 10-foot plank on the floor in front of you and offered you $50 to walk the plank, would you do it?
On the
I
floor.
mean, kind
Yeah,
of a
absolutely. I
brainer,
mean, that's easy. Nope,
right?
there's
Okay.
very little risk.
And so the next level is if I took that same plank and put it between two 20-story buildings and offered you $50, would you do it?
No way. For
Why?
me,
Why not?
uh, because the risk level is much higher and the
Yeah.
reward's not high enough.
Yeah. Your why is not strong enough. But then if I told you, so Brigham, you're a dad, right?
Yeah.
So if I told you that on the other side of that plank, the other building is burning to the ground and your children are in it, and that's the only way to them.
Oh, absolutely. I wouldn't even question it.
$50 or not, you're running across that plank to save your babies, right?
Yep.
So that burning why. So for me, at that time, my building was on fire and my kids were in it. So for me, every time I come up against that edge where it's really hard, I have been betrayed by friends and business partners. I've had people take everything from me more than once. I've had, those challenges of balancing being a single mom of 6 children while trying to run a business. I guarantee you, I come up against that edge a lot. But then I always remember that if I don't do this, then that building is going to burn. I will not be able to have the life that I want for me and for them.
Right.
And so when you come up against that edge, if you have written down and you have understood your burning why, and you can get back in that space, because when I was walking you through that process, you felt it, didn't you?
Absolutely.
Like energetically, emotionally, you're like, oh my gosh, if my kids are in that building, who cares about $50? I'm running. I will run through fire to save my children. So that is the why, like that burning drive. It's a literal drive. You felt energetically compelled, even though it was even in just an imaginary experience. You felt the energetic compulsion in your body to go run across, even an imaginary plank. So if we have that memory, if we have that moment, if we have that why developed in our psyche, then when we come up against that edge, as all entrepreneurs and business owners do, then you can build that, you go back and build that energy and that momentum, because willpower is not enough. That's why everyone fails at their New Year's resolutions. Willpower will never be enough. Atomic Habits is my favorite book for that reason, because it develops sustainable habits based on anchoring like what actually works in your psychology, because willpower will only get you so far. You actually have to have psychological techniques to get you over, through, and around those kinds of moments.
That's where discipline comes in, like coupled with that motivation. If it's all right, I'm going to add one little idea here that I think may be helpful. In Mandarin, there's an expression for motivation. It's dong ji. Dong is to move, and ji is an engine or a motivation. So your motivation to move, your motivation to go after whatever it is you're going after, running into that burning building for your kids. That is so valuable in understanding this why. So I love that. Any other further thoughts around that? Go ahead.
No, that's beautiful. And then, so knowing your why will get you, again, past those hard moments that come up. So building that drive, that determination, and that passion for what you're doing based on your why. And so then the next step that I like to take people to is, good morning, Wilmer says. Good morning, Wilmer.
Good morning, Wilmer.
Oh, I love it when people get engaged and chat online and ask questions. I love all of my trainings to be interactive. So I'm the same way with podcasts if you are.
Yeah.
So if anyone wants to share and ask questions as we go along, you can decide this if we want to save them for the end, but I like to engage during.
Yeah, if there's a question that is like burning in your desire, like ask us, guys. It's totally fine. So that's great.
So then the next is working on your mindset of having a solution-oriented mindset. Mine is there's always a way and I'll find the way.
Yeah.
Because we all have, so this is the other, and this is what I named my brand after, right? Ignition point. And the reason why it's a flame is because ignition point is that defining moment where you decide enough is enough. I'm going to forge my own way. I'm going to find my own path. Nobody was really taught or encouraged to be an entrepreneur, usually in mainstream. It's not in most public schools. And the few that it is in, I mean, it's an elective. And are they actually setting you up with business owner mentors or the seed money or the investors? Like, they're not actually, it's an option. And usually it's like you can't read a book about tennis and be Venus Williams, you can't,
Right.
like, you actually have to get out on the field and scrape your knees and fall down on your face and get up against that edge. So the mindset is the next thing. Mindset's not the only thing, but you do have to, it's pivotal, just like knowing your why. You have to have a mindset of, when I come up against the edge or these defining moments. So the fire for me is, it's a refiner's fire, but only, again, by choice. The ignition point is the defining moment. So here's the fire. Somebody told you couldn't do it. A business owner stole $16 million from you, like Pace Morby, or your business lost 25 grand your first year, like Dan Young. Like, these are the, PC laptops. Like, I told his story on my podcast. Like, or you overscaled and overhired too fast, and suddenly it's Thursday morning and you can't pay your employees who have families depending on you, like Sean Finnegan's story. So these are the things that you're like, am I going to let this fire consume me or refine me? So you have to have decided ahead of time to cultivate a success-oriented mindset, a solution-oriented mindset, because everybody has those hard things. And if you want to be sad and mad and revengeful and commiserate, that's why the word is commiserate. You commiserate by whining and complaining and bonding with other people that way. You're justified in that. Yes, that was hard. That sucks. But what is that going to do for your future? Go back to your why. If you commiserate and whine and complain and you're a victim because this thing happened to you, it is valid. Yes. But if you want to fight for your excuses, you get to keep them. If you want to get up and over and around them because that building's on fire and you want to save your kids and give them a better life, then you have to have a different mindset. So that's why I love the book, Extreme Ownership. It doesn't matter what happened to me. It doesn't matter the environment I found myself in. My mindset is all about, what can I do about it now? Yeah, go ahead.
I was just thinking, one of my very favorite quotes, I had this on my classroom door for years, is from Viktor Frankl. He said, between stimulus and response, there's a space. And in that space is our ability to respond, our ability to react. And everything in our life, we can really check out and say, is this the environment that's right for me? And if it's not, we're not a tree that's stuck in that environment like eternally. We can uproot ourselves, put ourselves in a better situation with the friends we associate with the books we read, like what you're talking about. And the environment is so crucial to building these like atomic habits, like you were bringing up earlier, and having the ability to change. Your mindset is often impacted significantly by what is happening around you and what you're reading and what you're ingesting, not just through your mouth, but through your eyes and your ears and your nose. All of that environment is so important. So tell us really quick, in your experience, how have you been able to control a lot of these environmental energy sucks, like those people that you're like, man, you're an energy vampire, stay away from me. Or been able to go and say, I know that person has a great mindset. I want to intentionally go and increase my opportunity to spend time with them. Can you talk to us about controlling your environment like that?
Well, I love that you brought up Viktor Frankl, because I use that quote a lot for that very reason. If a man knows his why, he can endure anyhow. So if you're not yet in a position where you have a good environment, or you have curated like-minded, successful people who are doing what you want to be doing around you, like, those are the things to work towards. But if you're not there yet, if you are suddenly left without a home or food or a penny in your bank account and 6 kids to take care of, how do you get from A to B? And that's a valid question. If you don't have the ability to take a training, if you don't have the ability to even buy a book yet or find the people, you can start out with free podcasts, right? Everybody has, I mean, access to the internet. You know, everyone has, you can find people willing to give you their old phone for free, add you to their account for $15 a month. Like there are ways. And I love that. I just went to a group of female business owners. And the trainer of the night was saying, because everyone there is a self-made millionaire, right? She's like, you only got invited here because you're at a certain level. But she said, but you're not self-made. Nobody is self-made. You self-chose, you self-selected, but nobody is self-made. You do have to take action to find the people and the resources to get yourself there. But even with nothing and no one around you that seems like is on your side, you can start with the mindset. I'm looking for solutions. I'm looking for opportunities. It's just like where they say, you know, when you buy a new car and you suddenly see that car everywhere, this has happened to everyone, right?
Like, oh man, there's
Okay.
my red car. Oh, that's not okay. It's there and there. It's everywhere. Like,
It's everywhere. And it's so bizarre that it will even happen when my kids play the popcorn game where they look for a yellow car so that they can punch each other. And so suddenly there's yellow cars everywhere. And it's not like they magically exist now because my children are playing the popcorn game. They were always there, but our minds, you know, our subconscious minds are taking in thousands of bits of information. Conscious mind's job is to filter out what it deems important so that we can be on our path. That's why everybody's reality is different. We've got 8 billion different realities, right? You and your sweetheart can be in the same room and have a totally different experience of that, right? And we've all been in the same experience where a couple broke up and he said this and she said this, and you're like, were you guys even in the same room together? Like that, what just happened here? We all have a different perception of reality, and here's how you curate it. You use that knowledge to decide, I want to see that white minivan. So I just bought the white minivan. Now I see the white minivan everywhere because my mind decided that was important. Now I don't have to be in the back seat of this experience, knowing this is how the brain works. I can be in the front seat. And if I decide that I am going to find, there's always a way and I'm going to find the way, then I can train my mind to find solutions instead of problems.
I love
now,
that.
if I go through this fire and I decide I'm going to whine about it. Oh my gosh, my ex-husband did this to me. Oh my gosh, I don't have a home. Oh my gosh, I can't get ahead. Well, then you're right. And that's what you will see.
Yeah, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. I hear that over and over again.
Well, it's not woo-woo. You know, it is literally how our brain is wired. It's that car experience.
Yeah.
But you can curate and determine what your mind starts to see based on that. So when you decide to take extreme ownership, no matter what circumstance you find yourself in, then the opportunities start to become aware. They were always there, but you can't see them unless you're determined to see them. If you focus more on your limitations, then your brain will show you more of the limitations. If you focus more on, oh man, that Brigham is like killing and crushing it in real estate. I want to learn how, and I'm watching your content and I'm seeing what you're doing. My mind will see the ways to meet you or people like you or get me access to you to learn.
I love
It's
that.
just how it works because those opportunities are there. The yellow car is there. The white minivan is there, but you only see it when you determine it's important to see.
I love it. This is literally comes back to one of my mantras I've had for since 2008. It's right there. Yobanfa. It means there is a way. And when you have this idea that this comes from Moroni 7:33, and Christ has said, if ye have faith in me, ye shall have power to do whatsoever thing is expedient in me. It's this idea that when you have the space in your mind to say, not can I do this, but how can I do this? It's so key. A lot of times one little word can reprogram your reality and give the option to brainstorm, the option to create the winning scenario. Whereas if you leave out that how can I, you are limiting yourself saying, oh, I guess I can't XYZ. And you're right, because you stop thinking. You closed off that pathway to be creative on that solution. So let's talk about that a little bit with with YouTube. I know that's one of your specialities, is to help people grow their YouTube channels, to grow their influence and their
That's just a side hustle. I actually teach business owners how to increase profitability and scale. The YouTube thing is just a side hustle. I will talk about that because that does go to the next step in the path of progress, which is surrounding yourself with people who are doing what you want to be doing. Because it feeds that mindset that you've determined, right? So I know, like, multimillionaires will not tolerate being in a room of people for 1 second that whine and complain about their circumstance. You will not get into the room with them.
Right.
If you want to be surrounded by people like Brigham who are crushing it, or like we just had Pace Morby on our podcast, and in 5 years he's gained 500 or $500 million in real estate in 5 years from nothing, from his business partner taking $16 million and tanking and bankrupting his construction company, and he had nothing in his bank account, zero. And 5 years later, he has $500 million in real estate and 600 employees. And I guarantee you it's not because he was like, oh, poor me, for 1 second. You don't get there if you're, oh, poor me, for 1 second. So you have to determine that within your own self, and then consciously curate your circle to be around people who are committed to crushing it, doing what you want to be doing as well. You must have like-minded friends, masterminds, networks, mentors. And if you don't have them yet, be determined that you'll find the way and they will come. But that's like literally like if you hang around people who whine and complain, and it feels it's not like you can't help them. I definitely I do a lot of pro bono work. I give people free access to my academy. I do the teen events, which are a huge financial loss to me because I also want to give back, but those are curated as well. I'm not going to sit in a room and listen to someone whine who will not also take action about it, right? Because that will bring you down. I guarantee you listen to that kind of stuff. You go to those kind of rooms too much. You think you're helping them. You listen to someone for 5 hours, complain, and you think, but guess what? What happened the next day? Do they actually feel better? Do you feel better? Did they take action? Did they change? No, then you just wasted 6 hours of your life that you could actually be doing things to make yourself, make your life better, make the world a better place, actually contribute. So be very, your time, we wake up with 83,000 seconds every day, and then it's gone. So if you woke up with $83,000 in the morning, but if you didn't spend it, it was gone by the end of the day, So time is our most precious asset. We can always make more money. We cannot make more time. So being very deliberate about how I spend my time and who I spend it with, because every yes you say is a no to something else. Brigham, if I say yes to you this morning to be on your podcast, it is a no to spending the morning with my kids.
Yeah.
So I chose that because I know you have an audience that will resonate with the message that I have, and it's a good collaborative win-win effort. But I don't say yes to every podcast. I don't say yes to every opportunity, because then it's a no to something else. So be deliberate in how you spend your time and who you spend it with. You get in the room. I remember my first time, I was still rising out of the ashes, and my first time in a room with multi-millionaires. It was actually a real estate event. It was actually a Renatus event.
Oh,
but
awesome.
It was the after party for the accredited commercial investors. And so they all had to have a minimum of 2 million in their account, ready, willing, and able to invest in this opportunity, right? And 6 hours of conversations about changing the world and money-making collaborative joint ventures and all these things. And these people had been through stuff. Someone had lost his wife, someone else had had a heart attack, but that was not what was being discussed. It was all like, how can we make our lives and everybody else's lives in this whole world better? And it's amazing to be in those kinds of rooms and have those kinds of conversations, and they will rub off on you and retrain your brain to see that yellow car, to see those multi-million-dollar opportunities, right? And then it starts to become who you are, because you've curated your why, you've curated your mindset, and you've curated your inner circle, and you will become like the people you hang around the most.
I love that. What you said about taking your time and reframing it to think of it as money. Are we investing our time wisely with the right people? Is our knowledge bank account going up? Is our relationship bank account going up? Because we can take that time and we could absolutely spend it on Netflix, or we could go spend it just hanging out and gambling or something. But is that going to be the best use of that time? When we invest our time, a lot of times we can gain interest, because now we have a better relationship, and that relationship can take us to exponential levels. So in your experience with patterns of progress, what is one of those pieces of advice that's really bad that you're like, please don't do this because it's dangerous in business? What's one of those that, or a handful of those that you're like, this, just be careful? Give us a red flag.
Getting distracted, saying time again. One of the things I do talk about a lot is the compounding effects of time, just like the compounding effects of interest. Because like, if you are spending 2 hours a day watching Netflix or scrolling or whatever, how much time is that at the end of the week? How much at the end of the month? And how much at the end of the year? Could you have started a side hustle in that amount of time? Or even if you're spending time arguing with someone for 3 hours, well, what if I told you it would cost you $800 to argue with someone for 3 hours just so you could be right? Well, it actually did, because if you're not building something, then you actually, it costs you $800 or something around there, whatever your hourly rate is, to have that conversation. So just distractions, limiting distractions. Now, I love that you bring up Netflix, because I talk about that all the time. I don't watch TV unless it's a specifically curated, like bonding, like with my kids. And I usually use it to talk about how they would want to grow and why they liked it. But like, why watch fake people live fake lives when you can go live a real one? So you brought up YouTube, and I also have, and I also have hobbies now. Like, I'm a lead singer in a classic rock band, and I host events all the time, because I'm out like actually living those kind of lives instead of just watching a pretend one. So YouTube I collaborated with people doing what I wanted to do, right? I wanted to get my message out to millions. And so I thought, who's doing that? Oh, this guy, a professional YouTube producer who works with, I can't say, but one of the biggest, he has an MBA. So actually on public thing, like I can tell people privately, but publicly I'm not allowed, because he's not allowed. But he works with literally some of the very biggest YouTube stars there are. And so in my mind, like, this is another pattern of progress. Stay in your zone of genius, and for everything else, like, delete or delegate or collaborate. So if I tried to be scrappy and learned how to do YouTube on my own, I could, and I actually would want to, because I actually love to learn. So this is something I had to be disciplined about. What is my time worth? Is learning YouTube in my zone of genius? Like, I like to learn. I know I can, because I'm a fast learner. I'm intelligent. I can learn, and I can do anything, and I can be successful at it. Anybody can, if you're determined enough. But YouTube is not what I'm selling. And so if I want to get where I want to go the fastest way possible, I will hire someone to get me there. So I hired a professional producer, and it's almost unheard of to monetize a channel with, 2 no-name people. Interview style is one of the least watched. I mean, 7 months time. I know people who are actually already highly successful, have a huge following, and they've been doing their own podcast on YouTube for 5 years. Wow. And still only have 33 views, still are not monetized. And I'm like, well, I'm no spring chicken, Brigham. I have 3 grandkids now. I don't have 10 years to figure this out on my own. I want my message out now. So I found the way, because I have that mindset. I don't know how, but I will find the way, because there's always a way. And I work with a YouTube producer to get me there. But I understand that, because I also have a compassion, obviously, for people who are not there. It's expensive to work with a professional producer. So yes, I did see a market gap, and I did create with a friend a very affordable do-it-yourself program to get you there. If you have more time than you do have resources, and that's something you want to add, we did create that, because there was a gap for that. It is very expensive to use a professional producer. So you have to decide. It goes back to being very deliberate with your time and who you surround yourself with. YouTube is a great resource to build credibility, authority, and lead gen. And if you have more time than you have more money right now, then do it yourself. We created a program for you for that. But if you are able to hire someone, if you are already making a certain amount of income and you use that as your marketing dollars, there's ways to grow faster, but then there's ways to grow more organically. And then you have to be deliberate in determining where you're at, what your resources are, what your immediate needs and goals are, because building a YouTube channel is not an immediate stream of cash flow. Like that's a long play game. And so I would want to chat with someone about their goals, because there are other ways when you're in business. And so this is the next step, is beyond mindset, because mindset is not enough. It is super imperative, but it's not enough. I love Tony Robbins has a couple of quotes on this. First of all, there's no amount of sitting in a garden chanting, "There are no weeds," that are going to make the weeds disappear. Right? We have to take action. We have to do it. So a lot of times, the way appears not just because of your mindset, but because you're also taking action on the mindset. Like faith is not a religious term. Faith is just a success principle. And faith is a principle of two things. It's a belief in the unseen and a principle of action. So you have to have both of those pieces. You have to have the solution-oriented mindset and the willingness to take steps, even if you don't know the full picture yet. You just don't let this stop you. You just begin, and you get better as it goes. If we get caught up in analysis paralysis, like when I threw my first teenager event, from the idea in my head to the actual event was 20 days, Brigham. Wow. And I had 150 teenagers show up, and everyone was like, "What on earth? I've been wanting to do this for 2 years." I'm like, "Why didn't you? You don't have to." Like, it wasn't perfect. Throwing a big event together in 20 days, and I've done them in 6 days and whatever. Like, obviously it's not perfect, but I'm not afraid of feedback. Mm. You only learn through experience. Again, you can't learn tennis by reading the book. You have to get on the court, and you will scrape your knees, and you will smash your face, and people will make fun of you. That's part of the game. You got to be resilient, but you've got to take action. But also, the second quote by Tony Robbins that I use about action, mindset not being enough, is you've got to have right action. You need proven processes, because there is also no amount, this is his quote, not mine, there is no amount of running east chasing a sunset that is going to get you to your goal, no matter how hard you believe. Right? You must have proven processes. And so that is what I have developed for business owners, not just the little, YouTube program that we have, but my entire Ignition Point Academy is that it is proven systems and processes to build profitability. And I am not about, like everyone in the business world, at all of these networking events and these investor events, they're all about revenue. I am all about profitability. I'm like, revenue feeds your ego, but profits feed your family. Yeah. I don't care if you did $1 million in revenue this year. If you're in the red, or you took, $100 home to your family, that's not sustainable, and your business isn't going to last. Right. You have to have a profit. And I actually show business owners how to have the same profits. I tell them, what if you could have the same profits as $1 million business with 25% of the revenue? Would you say yes? And they're like, well, not if I want to brag about being $1 million business, but if it's about feeding your family and have money for vacations and a home, then you would, because it's less work for more money if you focus on profits instead of revenue. And revenue goes up with these systems that I've brought together as well, but it's more about actual profits. And there are a lot of things, like entrepreneurs, a lot of times they're building something brand new. So they're developing these procedures and systems as they go, and they might not have the training. And then sometimes, even if you have an MBA, a degree in business, running a business is not the same as starting one, not even close. And so when you're building something from new, or even when you are managing a multi-million-dollar company, with people in the six-figure range, like we go over 12 different areas of profitability, but if in the seven figures and above, we have 40 different areas that we cover to increase profitability so that it's sustainable, scalable, and you're building an asset that you can sell. Because you don't want to stay in the chair for dollars forever, do you, Brigham?
No way.
Eventually, like, you want to put years of effort into being able to, like, that's the other thing. If you have a chiropractor who is seeing, in the chair for dollars, when they retire, then they have nothing for all those years of hard work. But we teach them strategies on how to build a business where they're training and hiring other people underneath them, and then a manager, so that they have an asset that they can then sell. And we show them, we have a valuation tool. My software has a valuation tool. It's not official. It's not an official one that you can take to the bank. Because again, we're not like, I'm a strategist, but I do show them, the tools to get there as well. So usually people will work with this system for 5 to 8 years because it works so well. And it's about, you're actually going to build a company that can then survive and grow, and then you can sell or have someone else manage and continue to make money even when you're not there.
I think that's really where business is different than just being a solopreneur, is in that system that's scalable. It's in that system of leveraging other people's everything, time, money, knowledge, skill sets, and being able to have that profitability factor. I love how you brought that up. There's multiple ways that you can increase your cash flow and multiple ways that you can make your business more valuable. But if you are the only person in your business, right, you are the only asset. If you have some catastrophic injury, your business is dead and there's no recovering. So if you are going to be sharing with some sales professionals, some people that are solopreneurs, how they could get on this path to create a business that is actually sustainable without having them always working in the business. They can be working on the business and making it more and more profitable, more and more valuable. What would be the most important, or one of the most important things you would tell them as far as this pattern of progress?
If they're still in the solopreneur phase, I would definitely start with my 12 areas of profitability before we would talk about hiring and scaling, because they need to be able to afford to hire someone. You don't want to be in that position where, like I told you, some of the people I've talked to overhired too fast and then they couldn't make payroll. And that is not a good position to be in. So the first I have a free book that I can give everybody afterwards that covers 12 of these areas. But which one you want to start on first is going to depend on your business, what systems you already have in place, what your goals are. But a couple of my favorite areas that are really easy to increase cash flow right away is cutting costs. This is something that people they get really, really busy in marketing and drip campaigns and online content or whatever it is. They forget to just deep dive into some of the basics, right? So who are your suppliers? When was the last time you audited what they're charging you compared to what their competitors would be charging for the same service if you sell products, right? So you could audit your suppliers or your marketing campaigns. When was the last time you did a deep audit on maybe split testing if you have 2 Facebook ads going and they're both bringing in lead gen, but did you do an audit on one? If maybe one is converting a lot more than the other, maybe you want to put more ad spend into just the one. Or there's a lot of areas of cutting costs, and that's usually the first one, but it depends again on the business owner and where they're at. So we work with everyone from like a massage therapy clinic to manufacturers to law firms to, even yesterday we were talking to the Ninja Kids channel.
Oh, nice.
About how to have other people. And even we were chatting with my friend was chatting with Mr. Beast about how to have other people start to be involved so that they can walk away when they want to. Because otherwise, like if the Ninja Kids family is the only face of the channel and they have brand deals with Walmart and Target and they have adventure parks and all these things, but if suddenly their face is the only face and they're done and the kids have aged out and the dad's too old. What happens to the brand? So he's already put systems in place to start having other ninja kids on there and building the brand beyond his own face. And Mr. Beast is about to work on the same thing himself, but that's what we're doing. So like with this massage therapist, she wasn't she needed immediate cash flow. So we were not like big immediate cash flow. So we went into lead generation and we went into a process I call debt, like regenerating dead leads. And she made $1,200 in an hour. Just calling old clients that haven't been around for a while. But if someone is, if they've got some cash flow and they are just looking, maybe they don't want to look into cutting costs yet, because that one's a kind of a more time consuming. Market dominating position is one of my favorites. So if you think about Domino's pizza, are they the best pizza? Are they the yummiest pizza you've ever had? No, but they came up with a strategy back in the day to, target hungry college kids. It'll be cheap and it'll be there in 30 minutes. And they came up with that market dominating position and they crush, right? Still to this day, they don't even do the 30-minute thing anymore, but they did it hard enough, fast enough, and for long enough that they now have a top of mind awareness. When you're thinking of ordering hot, fast, fresh, and still good pizza, but they're not the best pizza if you think about it, but you do think of them first, top of mind awareness, because they had a good market dominating position. So there's 12 of those areas that we'll go over, and the order is not, it's based on, so I'll talk with someone for 2 or 3 hours when I'm first meeting with them to decide which one of these, and then we go over how long it will take to implement. And I actually guarantee my results. So 93% of business owners have found an additional $100,000 by doing this. But even if they don't find that much, I guarantee to double their ROI on working with me, or they don't pay. Because I'm all about results and win-win. And I would never want someone feeling like, it wasn't a use. No, that's never happened. But I want to be someone who walks the walk and talks the talk and gets the results. Like, it's all about results for me. I'm very, like I said, passionate about education and profitability. People don't want to talk about money because they're like, money doesn't buy happiness. Well, I think that's a lie, because if you've ever been in a position where you don't even know how to feed your children or where they're going to be sleeping the next day, I guarantee you money would have bought us a little bit of happiness. So profitability is going and making money so that you have your needs met and the kind of life that you and your family deserve.
Yes.
It's going to make you happier. I promise that it is.
Yeah, happiness is not just the kumbaya idea. It's how do I make sure all of my needs are met and my children's needs, and make sure that they are not just well fed, but they have the lifestyle, like you said, that they deserve. Now we want to give back and help them have a hand up, not just a hand out. It's
there's a lot of problems that money can solve. I mean, it's not everything, because it goes back to mindset, right? You can still have millions of dollars and be a victim and be sad. We hear those stories all the time. So mindset is first. But I mean, if you don't have a home or food or access to proper health care or mental health care or, sports and activities and things that make life enjoyable, those are the things that money support you with. And so it's not like, let's take that weirdness off the table and let's talk about profits instead of revenue.
Talking about profits instead of revenue. Now, in the last 2 or 3 minutes we have here, would you give us like that final idea that you're like, if I could leave you with just this one actionable step, what would that be? What would the piece of advice be that you're like, this, if you do nothing else, do this? Go ahead.
I hope it doesn't sound salesy or pitchy, but it is what I believe, because the final key to success is having a coach. The Life Coaching Institute, the Tony Robbins Business Coaching Institute, all of them have proven with research that there's anywhere from 65 to 85% increase in success if you have a coach. So we can't see our own, we can't see our own stuff. So whether it's a life coach or a business coach or both, your success in life will go up if you have that person. The biggest thing is accountability. I mean, even if you just get an accountability partner and they're a really good one and they're actually reliable, your chances of success increase astronomically. That's the first thing. Like when someone starts with me with a coaching program, that's the first thing they'll say within either the first, second, or third session. They always say to me, oh my gosh, like I set my own goals and yet I wouldn't have done them if we didn't have this deadline. I didn't want to come on and face you and say, I didn't do them. I didn't do the things I said I was going to do. And they're like, that's shocking to them. And I had a lady who was her very first time with a coach, and our session was at 9 a.m. and she gets on and she's like, I didn't do any of my stuff. So I got up at 4 a.m. today to get my homework done so that I wouldn't have to get on with you at 9 to say I hadn't. And in the YouTube program, I've got a good buddy of mine that for 2 years, he has wanted a YouTube channel. And he's like, well, 1 month in, we finally launched it. And he goes, I wouldn't have done it without these accountability calls. But so if you have minimal resources, find an accountability partner, someone on this call or in a group, a networking group that you're a part of, and you guys can do that for each other. But if you're ready, willing, and able to take it to the next level, hire someone who has also, like I said, the actual proven strategies to get you and your business to the next level. Because that, then you're not trying to figure it out on your own. And that, you can shave 20 years off of not trying to reinvent the wheel, figuring everything out on your own when you have someone looking at your systems and your processes and deep diving with you, as well as holding you accountable.
I think that's so essential. I have a business coach, guys. I pay for it, not just in Renatus. I also have other ones too. And it's something that you don't realize how that extra level of accountability increases your results, because you're not allowing yourself that space to say, I'm not going to do it. You say, how do I do it? How am I going to make this happen? I've got this much time. I need to do this thing right now. And there's an urgency that's created. And I love that.
It really is. And we'll bring that, like the last book recommendation is that, like, who, not how.
Yes.
Like you can get a lot further in life if you have the right who's around you as well. Like, and that would be, and yet never hire a coach that doesn't also have a coach. Make sure they walk the walk, because I also have several coaches too. I have a business coach and a life coach and a relationship coach, because I know the value of it. So, and my kids have a therapist. Because I'm like, I'm serious. Like, I'm only, you only live once, right? Or even if you believe it, that you only live once, you only get this lifetime once. So make the most of it and do the things you need to do to make the most of it. You are the one you've been waiting for. You are the only one holding you back. So, I mean, there's, I think I gave 10 things of patterns of progress here. So rewatch it. And if you're just starting from ground zero, know that if I can do it from ground zero with 6 kids in tow, so can you. I'm not anything special. I didn't have skills. I didn't have people around. We were homeless, penniless, and I had no degree. So if I can do it, you can do it.
Thank you so much, Debbie, for all of these patterns of progress you shared. It was a pleasure to be on the line with you. How do people find you on social media so they can keep in contact?
Well, if you want the free training, I have videos on all 12 of those areas, along with my free book with 12 of those strategies. You can go to my website, ignitionpointacademy.com. That is the best thing, because then you'll just get a bunch of free stuff and you won't have to feel like I'm going to sell you on anything until you're ready to reach out. And then if you are, I mean, my calendar link is on the website as well. Or if you want to, I actually have a ton of free local events. I have one for teen entrepreneurs coming this Saturday. If you're in Utah and you want to come support teen entrepreneurs, I'm doing one this Saturday. So the way to find out about all my events is my Facebook page. So it's just Debbie Hart on Facebook. Or our podcast is on YouTube, Ignition Point Podcast on YouTube. It's the hero's journey of self-made millionaires in 15 minutes or less, because that's all we've got time for, right?
Well, thank you so much, Debbie. We're going to transition my friend Mike Word. And I'm just very thankful one more time to have you and share such great actionable advice. Get a coach, guys. Such a great, simple thing. We can do this. So once again, thank you so much, Debbie.